My second question is with the Raja Yoga. I briefly looked that up, and it looks like it's like a whole system. So it's not just the physical exercising aspect of what we typically know of as yoga on the surface. It's something
Yes.
that's more. Can you dive into that a little bit, or do you
A-
already have that?
Absolutely. So, what's basically being offered here is royal knowledge. So, I know some are always looking for the best, right? Like we all want to be royalty and treat it like royalty, right? This is royal knowledge. So what's being transmitted in this version of the Gitas that I was explaining to you about, the one that I left the link for, is the royal knowledge. So it's not even just the actual positions of actual physical yoga, but actually how the consciousness needs to think and needs to perceive and to come into union with the spirit in order to reach the highest state. So the highest state then is the Raja, because it is saying it's set aside for the highest citizens, if you may, of the reality. So think about how this is being presented, because it's literally saying, listen, if you want to be royalty, here's the knowledge for that. And the real one, though, this is not like a decoration that you get that falls off when you die. This is the one that carries you beyond death, that allows you to gain the respect as you're walking into your greater aspects of yourself. And your perceptions start here. I'm not a fan at all of systems that you got to experience in the hereafter. And you're like sitting here bored as hell all day because you're trying to practice something and keep yourself in restraint, but you see none of the benefits of this. That's Christianity, basically. So this is not what this is. This is that you start rapidly gaining a spiritual connection with yourself through isolating certain things that you're still doing, just from lack of not having that level of a mentor or that level of a reiteration of how it exactly works, like how detrimental it could be sometimes for you to kind of live out a certain way. So you're really looking for the Raja Yoga anyway to expand beyond this thing and get to a whole nother stage. It would be a shame if you didn't get there because of the application method that you were using wasn't exact. And this is really where I'm getting at with this conversation today, is that I've seen a lot of stuff, and you just don't get to the top of the canopy. You may get pretty far. And me and you, we've been in this for 10, come on, this is 10 years. So you definitely know what I'm talking about. It's like you could get into a system and even wholeheartedly dedicate yourself to it, and then still be like, it leaves you still in that same void. That's not what this is. Clearly. This, for us especially, it weaves in a lot of the stuff that we knew intuitively, but with the extra of someone who's also traversed those planes. See, because what's happening here is that we can still say that even in some of our greatest meditations, in our greatest levels of connection with the spiritual self, that may have lasted for maybe tops an hour. Sometimes if you go on a journey, it could be a few hours. We're talking about beings that have been sitting on these planes for days and days with a trained consciousness to then come back to you and say, this is exactly what you need to do. Not all the extra stuff, because if we put too many burdens on you, you're going to feel like that this is not going to liberate you. It's going to possess you then. It's going to be like a religion to you, and you're going to feel like that you want to go do something else, but you're really doing this. This is a formula of how you actually really convince the ego that, buddy, what are you doing, man? You're wrecking it for us. So you no longer really let the ego keep talking for you, because the ego is always going to be looking at how less pleasure it's going to get. It's like, well, shoot, I'm sure this says that I cannot have a bunch of girlfriends. I'm sure that's what's in this book. And if it's that again, there's got to be another way. So it's almost like the ego is always just trying to it's trying not to work, but meanwhile, it's always working. The mind is always working, right? So the only time you could ever get off work is if you could actually stop the mind. But the mind thinks that it's going to keep working, and it's going to eventually create something that's going to stop or end all of the stuff. And it's like, That's how the mind starts to sell this idea that it can't really back up because it's not the spirit. And so that's the power of this, is that like we get this opportunity to practice this Raja Yoga, which is actually the total unity in itself. That's why, as it says here, let's just read it directly. Because now that's what I'm saying in the terminology. That's why I even start picking up on some of these Sanskrit terms. In the terminology, yoga means to the Westerner the class with the mat, right? But in the word itself, look, even now, look, when the Oxford Languages starts to define it, it says it's a Hindu spiritual aesthetic discipline, a part of which including breath control, simple meditation, and the adaptation of specific body postures is widely practiced for health and relaxation. Wrong. Wrong. But that's the one that you're going to get. Now, the funny part is also with my Googles, because on my other computer, when I use the Brave browser and I search, I seem to get the answers. That's how I got the Abdullah Amlagada and all that. But now I'm logged in into my joint and I go to yoga, and the first definition they give me is this physical aspect of what yoga is, right? So I just have to type here yoga union maybe in definition so I can get the okay. Oh, here we are. Yoga is a Sanskrit word that comes from the root yuj, or which we would call yog, which means to join together. Simply put, yoga means union. In many ways, the term yoga is similar to the English term communion. Now, does that actually say it has to do with the physical aspect of being on the mat? No. The physical aspect of being in the mat is another conduit or a way to produce yug. So it says it refers to the state of the union of the communion with God or one's true self or the higher power. Because in the Shavasana, like generally not in the yoga, I'm sure there's some yogis that get it through the yoga that are very advanced. But generally for the beginner, it happens during the Shavasana. The body is completely burned up and it lays there like it's already on the fire. And then the essence is now pouring out of the being and it's in union with the cosmos. And then there's these subtle. So what you literally have to do is just like the workout. If you're not in grind time and you're not sweating, buddy, you're not doing anything at the gym, right? We know this. So the yoga in this respect is the same thing where we know we're coming in for grind time. We know we're coming in to work, but this is the last time we work and we get paid. And of course, the body's going to feel like it's suffering for a while and all of what its laziness can cook up, because a lazy person takes a long time getting to the supreme. I'll say this again. A lazy being takes a long time getting to the supreme, because the supreme is moving on a high vibratory frequency. So a lazy person the distance between them and the supreme is increasing rapidly. So you have to get on your horse. Like that's what I felt like, because your horse is your body, right? So as you start strengthening, like when I went through the first 3 days of yoga, every muscle hurt. All the muscles in the back. All of them. And when I'm on workouts, you may get the hamstring, you get the delts, you get the wings, you get the muscles. So you get these little 1 or 2, 3 parts, 4 parts of the body sore. This is all of it. And when all of it is exercised, that's what's actually making so you're going into those crevices and you're cooking up the fat juice again. Right? And that's why yoga heals things. I asked for healing from my headaches. Remember, I kept telling you I was getting these headaches, especially during the full moon. It's full moon right now. I'm good. As long as I get off here in 45 minutes, because I've been going all day, but I'm just saying. It's been moving things. I had when I started eating, we talked about the problem with the diet and then how the diet started really messing up my joints and all that. And then I was really kind of concerned about my knees for a moment, because it seems like the knees kind of took the biggest hit from not having the replenishment of the proteins that are needed for the body and et cetera, having a good diet. Yoga knocked all that stuff out. Yoga didn't care about all that stuff. It's building other parts of the body that are supposed to support those parts of the body. So it's just it's something different. But see, remember, yoga in the yoga class, and that's why the royal yoga starts. It starts in the consciousness. That's why I feel like it's a need for this type of mentorship, because when I see a yoga video, I'm like, I'm not doing that. That's just boring to me. I'm just keeping it real. So I'm looking at it like, because they do it also in a very robotic way, in a mechanical way. That's why I was saying it doesn't mean that everybody that is doing yoga has cracked into Atma and understands the battlefield Gitas. They probably haven't even read all that stuff. So I've had the opportunity in this segment to really be with Andrew and actually see the practice, which he's already been putting to work for years of his life. And then also to hear the knowledge coming from these volumes of work, and it's coming on into a consciousness that can really understand what's being said. And so it's a perfect match then. And it's also meeting me at a time in my life where I'm like, well, shoot, I done pretty much seen it all. At this stage, I need to start preparing for the ascension process, especially since if nobody's even going to know who you are, learn who you are, and not even respect you, you're wasting time in those kind of sanctums. So do you see, it's like when life, and that's why I said to everyone here, it doesn't mean necessarily that you're ready to do this now. This conversation could be for you just so that you're aware there is a way out. That trap doors that you don't know where the thing is at, it's in your body. And when you move certain ways, because now instead of you practicing it, like I said, like it's a workout class, you're really trying to basically make this thing work. So when you're doing the certain moves or positions where you're supposed to be bending, and you'll watch the body, like the thing is like the whole thing is wild, because you'll watch the body is cheesing out. It's like it doesn't even want to bend through the whole stretch. Like it's up to the instructor, right? It's like, okay, it's the instructors, they're supposed to teach me yoga. And it's like, what are you talking about? You need to get this down as soon as possible so you can get yourself together. Come back into your body and stretch into this position to open up that area, because down deep in that area that you haven't opened is essence. Is something that is so lying so dormant that it's basically corroding, and you now need to exercise it and transmute it. And this is a way that you're actually doing that.